Hey y'all, I want to come into you live and direct because I want you to understand this is a international issue I'm talking about. It applies to us. It applies to anybody of the African diaspora, and I'm coming live and direct to talk to you about this issue: Jollof versus Jambalaya. Jollof versus Jambalaya. The essence debacle that has happened due to the fact that the unfortunate, tragic part, the owners of Essence, which are African American, due to their mismanagement and tragic inability to find MBAs and people who are going to college here in America to take over the business. And that goes into the number one reason why, because we have so many black female MBAs, so many black female MBAs, and we have so many few black male MBAs, Masters of Business Administration, that graduate from colleges every day. And NABA, National Association for Black MBAs. You can go online and you'll see the numbers. We have Deltas, AKAs, SG Rows, so many. In essence, is a female magazine. It was a black female magazine. There was Black Enterprises, that was for business, and there was Essence for black women. So realistically, because Essence was for them as a competitor to Cosmopolitan, why wasn't the business put into a succession plan where African Americans could keep it going? It's like Ebony. You ever heard of Ebony? Okay. Well, what ended up happening was Africans that are from Nigeria predominantly, because 200 million of them live in Nigeria and they're growing every day compared to the only 50 million in America. I repeat, there's four times more Africans in Nigeria than in the whole country of United States. All right, four times in the state of Nigeria, not the full continent of Africa. That's a billion. So you can imagine with the numbers of Africans to African Americans, it's a lose lose. There's no way. Well, why is that? Well, again, from a spiritual and educated individual who knows his Bible history, we understand why. The curse of the law of Deuteronomy on our ancestors, the Hebrew Israelites. All right. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 28 for those of y'all who are learned and have studied. Those that don't know the Word of God, this will go over your head. But anyone who studies it will realize the facts are the facts. And that's why it's been hidden and been kept secret for so many thousands of years. Well, the reality is that the Africans who come to America, who have assimilated into white American culture, have bought the business that the business was sold from and not to African Americans. And then the African Americans, particularly women, who've been going to Essence festivals for generations. Mike's girlfriend went last year. New Orleans was famous for this. They're upset because the Africans who are already wealthier, who are educated, who have degreed, who are in the CEO suite, and homosexual. I see that's another part you got to put in there. Have taken over, and so the person that owns Essence Ventures is called Sundial Brands, which is a so-called owned by Nigerian or Liberian, which is another country in West Africa. But he's a wealthy Liberian. He is totally Europeanized. When you listen to him talk, he has no understanding that he is not them, but he thinks he's them. And eventually the day will come when they'll say, "You're not like us." The Kendrick Lamar song, "There, you're not like us." And when that day comes and he's slapped in the face with that, he'll realize, "Oh, I'm just a nigger." And when that hits, it'll slap him hard. But a lot of them haven't been slapped yet, right? Because the reality is, we're not like them. We are separate. We are different. We have a culture. We've always had one. So the African Americans who, in the tragedy, my people, believe that hip hop and today's kids, the hip hop of old, now the hip hop of today, is our culture, and they have want to become gatekeepers of our culture. The show that came out earlier this year, when we had the issue of Kendrick Lamar versus Drake. Everyone understands that Drake is mixed, aka European and black. That is what this girl is over here. She's just from Ethiopia, but that's thousands of years of inbreeding. Egypt, thousands of years of inbreeding. Everyone knows, go to North Africa, thousands of years of inbreeding. Arab slavery, African slavery, and of course American, European slavery. Okay, it's been all across the world because God commanded it in the scriptures that because you don't obey my word, I will curse you and your generations yet born. And He has. His word works. It doesn't come back void. The consequence of that fact is this: your children are upset. My children, your children, are upset because again, not like us is in essence by the Kingdom Lamar is saying, stop taking our style, stop taking our swag, stop copycatting us. We don't want assimilation like our ancestors did back in 1954, Thurgood Marshall, and the whole aspect. And the tragic part about this is you have to be a prophet to ask us the question, Lord, where is this going? Because if you go back to 1953, 1943, 1933, 1923, 1903, our little group of people were being murdered, lynched, killed. Not only did they not want to be us, they made sure to put fake laws in place so they would not be us. Now, today in 2024, 2025, 2030, they want to be us. And what Africans are trying to say in this generation is, I don't want you to copycat us. And the answer to that question is, sorry, the answer to that question is when they get the answer, when they get the understanding that African Americans don't want to be around Africans, the hatred that Africans and white people have already had in their hearts toward us is just only going to get intensified, right? Because the facts are the facts that most African Americans never left the country. They don't want to go anymore because they've been to Africa, some of them. They've been treated with such disdain by Africans. They don't want to go. And also Africa is 100 years behind America. Some places 200 years behind. Not only just in wealth, but because of the white structure that's taking and taking and taking resources from Africa to fuel the economy. Look at Africa from a satellite at night and look at how many parts of Africa have no light, night light. Then look at the America and look at Europe and look at how much night light shows from God's point of view, from heaven. It's amazing. Africa is still behind in many ways. That's why they're coming to America. But the sad part, what a lot of people thought was going to be a merger of Africa and African American is becoming now hatred. Why? Because the Africans did not understand that you don't come and change the menu instantaneously. You don't come and say, well, today we're not going to have jambalaya. We're not going to have fried chicken. We're not going to have biscuits and gravy. We're not going to have pig's feet. We're going to have jollof. Now, the sad part about it, jollof is great. But for you to be saying, I'm the owner because y'all sold it to us, we got the right to make a change because y'all sold it to us, is the same way when a European comes in and fires a whole bunch of people because he bought the company from you, from your previous employer. That mindset, it causes hate. And it's easy for us to hate the European because they've been doing that for so many generations. But when it's African to an African American, and that hasn't been happening ever, it's the first time it's happened. There's going to be a war, and I hate to say it. If this is not resolved, it's first going to be a war between blacks and Africans, and then what's going to happen is that there are going to be enclaves, just like there's enclaves between Arabs in America in certain areas or certain cities. And then you go look at Hispanic in certain areas and certain cities. and then Europeans in different areas, certain cities, and then what happens to a little small 50 million of us that are living this culture? That's all we got to argue. If the world stops imitating African culture, what do we have? Nothing. You don't buy our clothes, you don't wear our stuff, you don't want to be like us. If the world starts hating African American culture, what happens to the African American? You can't sell rap, you can't sell hip hop, you can't sell nothing because we have nothing. We don't have jobs and money. The number of us brothers and sisters out there selling drugs because they can't get a job, because they can't go to college, because they didn't go to high school, they graduate. Come on, man, this is normal. The jail systems are still taking our people at higher percentages than any other race of people on the planet. Okay, so this is a shocking scene because this girl is obese and she got the butt surgery and she's mixed, and this is in Africa. And the name of the person is Josan Getum. So obviously, I think it's Ethiopian. And this little 19-second clip, he's at some place, and it's not. I repeat, it's not at all what you would see in a predominantly African American community. Okay, and you wouldn't even see this in a predominant European community. But the interesting part is look at the faces of the white people watching. That's the ultimate thing I want you to see. And look at the disdain. But then you'll see some white people, they're like, ooh, I want to be like that. The girl over here that's on my far left that's wearing a black miniskirt who has the same obese body. This is the example. This is the culture appropriation and the issues that the FBAs are talking about. They're getting angry because, again, it used to be that the black sisters, African American sisters, were hating black men for going over to the Europe to European women and making mixed breed children like this lady right here, and that still is an issue. But then they can't. African American men can't find good black women because good black women are educated and it's too educated, and they want a man to be equally educated, and most African American men aren't because of what we talked about earlier, just the policies, slavery, and the consequences of the descendants of African American slaves that are on my people. At the same time, the descendants of white people who weren't slaves but masters gives them the wealth, the power, the prestige to do what they do. But the thing that we as African Americans have been able to do is make more with less. We've been able to take the worst crap of a pig and eat it and make it something to be quote unquote loved. Chitlins, which is intestines of a pig, pig's feet, right? Oxtail, the tail of an ox or a hog. Things that African Americans have had to deal with the disdain. We've tried to make it into something great. Instead of having the best of the food or the parts of the animal, we've had the worst. And then we try to make something out of it. But there's also a consequence to that. Premature death, diabetes, obesity, all of the consequences of that. People eat tremendously overweight. They can't stop eating, and they're gonna die because of overeating. So, what makes this interesting here, this blog, was what came up on my Facebook page. I saw it, and the FBA versus Jambalaya Essence Fest. You'll see lots of video on YouTube from various, and I encourage you to listen to all of them, both sides. Listen to Tariq Nasheed, and then listen to the Africans because this is an issue. If you're African American and you're a minister and you don't know what's going on, and you just sticking in the Word of God, and you have no ear to what's happening in the streets, shame on you, because if you don't understand, this is a part of the curse. Something wrong with you. I would have to say, as African American, it was taught to be growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, the South, that we were inferior as African Americans. I was born in 1974, so that's after Dr. King passed. Okay, that's in the middle are the biggest movement of African Americans to college in the history of our people. Since the 70s, African Americans have not gone to college at those numbers because white people they did the Backey case and they changed, and I repeat, they changed the laws and called it reverse discrimination against white people because black people were trying to stand up for their rights. See how sly and wicked law is? It's very diabolical and devious. I can't wait to see those girls' souls in hell. They have to be because your heart wasn't in the right place. It was in the evil satanic place. You didn't understand the value that African Americans were trying to get equality, but you said equality for blacks is this inequality for whites when now whites have been running the world since the beginning of America. That's for sure. And the sad fact is now, down around the world, they're afraid because the Europeans know the birth rates have been dropping. Number two, China is growing, and they're growing because they have in collective society, Chinese marry Chinese. They're not mixing. There's always a few smidgens, but we got a billion Chinese people that love themselves and love their country. Asia, same thing. Tokyo, same thing. China, same thing. Every place, the north, same thing. The only difference you have is in Africa, where Africans don't like African Americans, right? Not the same thing. So, why does this hit hard? Because as a African who speaks multiple languages, which means I've learned multiple cultures, I realize learning other cultures doesn't mean you hate your own. But at the same time, you have to defend your culture too, because you're a minority. And being a minority, unfortunately, means that you have to defend that part, that area. You have to defend your culture. So let's watch this and then we'll get done. So that was the 19 seconds, okay? The 19 seconds. And again, I want you to keep looking at the girls because, first and foremost, why would they be in the middle of a sea of white people? Is the first question I would ask. Not to be prejudiced, but just it just don't make sense. We know you just don't make sense. And so, this lets you know this is not. It can't be here. It has to be London. It has to be somewhere not U.S. U.S. It's not normal. It's not normal at all. Now, overseas it ain't either, right? Because they've separated themselves too. The enclaves that you have in South Africa, and Rwanda, and Kenya, and Liberia. I mean, every beautiful place in Africa, there are areas where we don't own. They've taken it, they've leased it, and they've taken the best parts of Africa and made it their own. So again, this is just geopolitics and understanding geography, understanding the politics of the world. Okay, and you keep looking at the eyes of the girls. Don't look at the woman. Look at the girl. Look at the people behind, and they're blurry, so it's hard to see. So I made my statement. I think it's very accurate. I think it's very, 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 very accurate. It's very tragic because, like I said, what's going on for foundational Black Americans is pretty, pretty evident. Okay, the reality is that it's not going to change. It's going to be like this for a long time. I think it has to be this way. Why? Because of the fact it's part of the plan. The plan has to go through these birth pains. These pains are only going to help the next generation. Some won't survive. Some won't survive, right? But there'll be a remnant that's going to survive. And how it's going to be for tomorrow, I know it's going to be good.